Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, depending on where you are joining this webinar. Welcome to LMU CBA's special lecture series. My name is Young Sun Pak. I'm a professor of international business and management and director of Center for International Business Education, often called the CIBE, using acronym at LMU, Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, California. LMU is one of 16 universities in the country that has received prestigious cyber grants. The LMU Cyber serves as regional as well as national resources to help U.S. companies and industries enhance global competitiveness. To fulfill this mission, LMU Cyber has been offering special lecture series on key international business topics that have significant implications for U.S. businesses. Today's webinar covers one of the most important and timely topics in this digital age, that is cybersecurity. October 2025 marks the 22nd annual Cybersecurity Awareness Month declared by the US President and Congress. This month-long campaign continues to unite US government, industry, and the public in promoting cybersecurity awareness and best practices across the country and beyond. As you all know, global cyber threat continues to increase at a rapid pace with a rising number of data breaches each year. As information technology has become critical in competing in the global market, the governments as well as companies should be more proactive to protect digital data, transactions, and networks. I'm glad you joined us today for this timely webinar exploring how strategic cybersecurity workforce development can strengthen U.S. business competitiveness in the global market. A panel of industry and academic experts will also examine the evolving role of artificial intelligence, its opportunities and challenges in shaping this critical talent pipeline. Now it's my great pleasure to introduce our moderator, Professor Clement. Dr. Keith Clement is a professor of criminology at Cal State, Fresno. Dr. Clement chairs the Workforce Development and Education Subcommittee of the California Cybersecurity Workforce, co-led by California Governor's Office of Emergency Services and California Department of Technology. Professor Clement authored the California Cybersecurity Workforce Development and Education Strategy and Framework and implemented the California Cybersecurity Career Education Pipeline and Pathway Project to prepare 75,000 cybersecurity professionals for statewide employment. Dr. Clement facilitates and enhances IT cybersecurity collaboration with industry, higher education, and public sector to develop strong partnerships and resilient cyber communities through alignment and linkage of statewide education career pipelines. Keith, I'd like you to take it over from here and introduce our panelists, and you can start a panel discussion. Thank you.
Youngsun, thank you very much for having us today, and deeply appreciate serving on the board for the Center for International Business Education at Loyola Marymount University. So it is our honor and our pleasure to be here today to talk about the United States competitiveness in AI and cybersecurity workforce worldwide. I would just like to add these days that cybercrime is the third largest global economy after the United States and China, at about $10.5 trillion, T as in trillion dollars in losses last year. That's more than double the GDP of California at about $4.5 million or $4.5 trillion. The competitiveness in the U.S. workforce is critical these days as cybersecurity and artificial intelligence live and reside in the digital world and not the physical world, and thus we have all sorts of issues. So we are first going to talk about global competitiveness in AI cybersecurity workforce development and education. And we will hear from Carlos Miranda, who is the Director of Information Security and Compliance at Loyola Marymount University. Welcome, Carlos. What's on your mind?
Thank you for that introduction. I recently just joined Loyola Marymount University a couple of weeks ago. I'm in the position of Director of Information Security and Compliance, like Dr. Clement mentioned. And coming over, it's really interesting how this is really impacting students at Loyola Marymount because as they're graduating now, they're starting to find a workforce, job market that is very tough. It's very hard out there. And a lot of the questions I get is, well, how do I get into cybersecurity if I don't have experience? One of the ways to do that is maybe look at the help desk, look at other ways of IT to really get your foot in the door. And now with AI coming in, I think a lot of companies are in this flux where they're not hiring as many entry levels because they're trying to figure out, well, how does the AI play a role in the entry level jobs? Right now, there's a big talent gap in cybersecurity still. There's great websites out there like CyberSeek where you can go on there, you can kind of map with the positions in cybersecurity that you want to maybe try to go into, and it'll tell you what paths you want. For myself, being a veteran, this is an industry where it lacks representations of minorities, women's, veterans. So that's another group that really, has been encouraged to try to figure out how to get into this field because of the gap. A lot of it is transitional. Maybe you don't have a cybersecurity degree or a computer science degree. That shouldn't stop you from trying to enter this field. There's ways to overcome that. Myself, for instance, when I went to college, there wasn't cybersecurity. And I wasn't even IT in general. I was more criminal justice because I had gotten out of the military. I thought this would be a great way for me to line up my skills. But looking back, actually, criminal justice wasn't terrible either because that is a basis for cybersecurity too. You still have the investigations, chain of custody. So that really helped me out. And then I went and I really worked on getting certifications in information security to, kind of back up that fact that I did not have a degree in that, but the certifications back my experience and my qualifications. But AI has really, really affected this field a lot. The United States, they spend quite a bit of money in AI. They outspend the world, but that doesn't mean that we are still going to be the leaders if we don't continue to innovate. So this is something that really this workforce is going to really start seeing, and they have to embrace AI. I know there's a lot of talk, a lot of people are hesitant to use AI, but the genie's out of the bottle. We got to really start working and figuring out how can we use it to our best of our abilities, and it really starts to start going down into middle school, I would say. You start talking about AI, you start talking about the positives, the negatives, and really how you can use AI, because right now there's a lot of issues with AI in general if you're not careful. And I think the younger you start, the better you'll be as far as using it as a tool. But hopefully that's a good starting point.
That's fantastic. And we would like to congratulate you on your new position at LMU. And you are a very exceptional leader in technology. And we thank you for serving today. And we look forward to some additional insights from you in the future. Michael Melore, who does not need much of an introduction from IBM. He is a Senior Associate Partner. And Michael, take it away.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm a national evangelist for cybersecurity and AI security tooling. I've created my own job over at IBM, which is something that maybe some of you students should think outside of the box on how you could create value and position yourself to do something that maybe is not already existing and maybe capitalize on that. I also lead IBM's efforts around the IBM Cyber Campus for the state of California, state of New York, New Jersey, and Illinois. And we'll be talking a little bit about the value of experiential training as well as education and how that dovetails together and well rounds the hiring candidates. Okay.
You are free to continue to
Oh,
discuss
okay.
the U.S.
So
competitiveness.
certainly, we'll be talking a little bit about the gaps that we have in the workforce right now, the number of vacancies for hiring cybersecurity professionals, the problems that we're seeing, that the organizations are looking for experienced folks. So the graduates are not able to just fall right into these open slots. And some of the organizations, the way that they're approaching filling some of these, they're maybe lowering down some of the requirements for these positions, but there still are some barriers when these folks do not go into an organization without a degree. They could maybe get to maybe a plateau, and then maybe they might wind up remaining at that plateau. So there are some challenges, and we're trying to address those vacancies as fast as we can, not only domestically but globally. Thank you, Keith.
No, of course. And speaking of that fantastic IBM Cyber Campus and IBM AI campuses, right? I mean, there's many different things going on.
Quantum computing also, we're the leader for that as well.
And I don't think that we're slated to talk much today about quantum computing, but one cannot get too far away from a discussion of AI or cybersecurity without hearing the footsteps of quantum coming up rapidly behind us, right? Mario Perez, a CSIT professor and network engineer at Los Angeles Valley College and with the Los Angeles Community College District. Mario, what are your thoughts on global competitiveness in the U.S. cyber AI workforce?
First of all, I want to say good afternoon, everybody, or good night or good morning, depending on where we are from. And again, currently, the cybersecurity competitiveness and, in the U.S., as we already, as Mike already mentioned, and Carlos, currently we have a big gap on between, the number of jobs, the need to be filled. And again, we have some factors that are affecting how, these gaps are in existence. And again, one of the main one is a misalignment between education and training, especially, from the educational side of the house. We as professors typically, when we're developing curriculum, the approval process takes a long time. That by the time that the approval of the curriculum is already in line, we're already far behind on the technology. So we need to make some changes into that. Also, we have some restrictions when we are hiring. We are typically in cybersecurity, we are tempted, okay, we're looking for 3-4 years experience. So there is no entry level position because we're expecting the applicants to have that experience. So we need to start working on changing our mentality, going away from the degree first, and then start using some of the skill base. So those are some of the experience barriers that some of the applicants are encounter as they are going to find a new position. Now we jump into the AI. So what's happening with AI? Again, if we want to be go back to be the number one global competitiveness in especially in the area, we need to make sure that we are the skilling, we are adapting, and also specifically the workforce had to be the key part of everything that we do, especially on either on academia or even on the industry partners. We need to start take advantage of those opportunities on the industry partners, start developing based on start taking advantage of their development they have. Most of the industry partners, they're already developing their courses. They already have the training in place. We as academia, we need to take advantage of those. Start building some academies based on the industry partners. Start developing, taking advantage of that. And again, we need to move to we need to shift the workforce strategy in order to maintain a global leadership here in the U.S. We need to take a look at the economy resurgence. And again, we need to start upskilling, redefining education, and most importantly, align with the industry. And, we can continue talking about that. But again, those are some of the key parts that we need to start taking into account once we start talking about AI. We need to upskill, redefine, education and make sure we align with the industry. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, Mario. Uh, Not to put too fine of a point on it, because of course we just heard about this discussion just a few minutes ago. The fundamental issue here is that AI has so fundamentally changed the incident response handbook, or playbook, as some prefer to call it, and it has so dramatically impacted both red team and blue team operations. I saw that phishing has gone up 1,100% since the creation of AI, generative AI. And it's not just the profound numbers of attacks that we're talking about here. We also refer to the increase in the sophistication of many of these attacks against a population, in all fairness, that might not know exactly what AI is all about either, right? I mean, they use AI to correct a document or to get them to their mapping software or something. But I think that folks across the US, back to competitiveness, really need to have a more literate and fluent version of AI that we're all familiar with. And because AI is so impactful on cybersecurity, we really have to go back and kind of rewrite the education and the training and the preparation processes necessary. The problem, as Mario indicated, is that it takes 2 to 5 years to get a degree program approved through a curriculum process at a college and a university. And by the time our webinar today is over, there's probably 10 new skills and 15 new tasks that have been added to the list. And it is so difficult for us to keep up. And industry is impatient. I have to admit that industry really wants academics to pick up the game. But because of such profound changes in innovation and technologies, it's a tall order. Carlos, what can we do? What can the U.S. do to bolster and enhance the competitiveness of the U.S. workforce in AI and cyber?
So it's really interesting because it's not all doom and gloom, right, with AI. I think there's a lot of opportunities for other job opportunities that weren't there, a year ago, 2 years ago. There's several organizations out there, CompTIA, ISACA, ISC Square, where, anybody who's looking to get into the field, there's a lot of free resources there. There's a lot of mentorship there. There's a couple certifications now where you can be an AI auditor. You can be certified in securing AI. So again, these are things that not just the US, but anybody on this call, if you're really wanting to get a head up, an advantage, is maybe look at those certifications. How can you improve your AI fluency, not just across, technically, but across all levels, right? Because there are positions out there, whether it's GRC, which is, governance risk compliance, you have an audit component, and you also have just securing AI in general, which we're trying to do here. And as you start going down this path, you're going to find that there's opportunities where AI can't manage itself. You're still going to need someone to make sure that the ethics and everything else is being followed. So those are some things I think in general that, again, these are opportunities that are opening up now with the use of AI.
Michael, what is your take on how the U.S. can improve our competitiveness in AI and cybersecurity? You're saving your best words for the mute button.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So the bad actors are using sophisticated tooling to attack us now. Dr. Clement mentioned about some of the phishing. We all have, I'm sure, experienced sophisticated phishing attempts even at us. I mean, sometimes I'm dumbfounded. I know recently I went over to my wife and I said, wow, look at these messages now about a summons coming in, either through email or text message that they're going to suspend my driver's license because I didn't pay some type of a online summons for going through a traffic light or a speeding ticket or whatever it is. All of that stuff is automated now. So if you're not using sophisticated tooling, you're certainly at a disadvantage to the bad actors. In fact, IBM, we've had or Watson, I don't know if you're aware, but I mean, we're not new to this space in any stretch. AI has been around almost as long as the internet has been around. The AI term was coined in the 1950s. I mean, it was probably about 15 years ago when Watson beat the Jeopardy champions. So right now, some of the tooling that we're using and the culture is maybe slower to embrace some of these technologies. There's the IBM Atom, which is the autonomous threat and operations machine. So that's able to identify the incident or attack, triage it, then even alert the analyst, tell the analyst exactly what they need to do, almost like a cookbook recipe, step by step, to remediate that situation. So just think about that. Even if the analyst doesn't have the skill set to do that, we're giving them all of the steps one at a time in order to mitigate that risk. And then there's also for GRC that we mentioned just recently, there's the IBM MARC, which is the module for autonomous risk and compliance. So all of these risk and compliance right now, IBM, well, we're client zero, so we're starting to use some of this. But prior to us even using that at IBM, we had 300 people dedicated to doing nothing but satisfying regulatory requirements, filling out assessments and so forth. 300 employees. Can you imagine that? And now we're reducing the time that it takes these analysts to do assessments for regulatory requirements that would have taken them maybe weeks to do. We could do that in under 45 minutes in some cases. So this is where we're going on this, and this is why we need this tooling.
Thank you very much, Michael. Mario, what are your views on the current status of U.S. workforce in cyber AI?
The current status, when we look at the cyber professional preparation, we need to start looking from the perspective of when we're training those cyber technicians, we need to make sure that the main goal should be enhancing national security, and our economy need to be stronger, and especially when we're talking about trading. So in order to do this, we need to make sure we have a strong foundation and enhancing the national security and economic security. So one of the key pillars is we need to keep emphasizing, we need to keep protecting our critical infrastructure. We're getting to the point, there's no need to protect the critical infrastructure. It's already secure. No, we need to keep focusing on those critical infrastructure, because at the end of the day, any of those critical infrastructure goes down, the whole global economy is going to be affected. So we need to be able to manage all the system risks, like Michael mentioned before. We need to be able, risks still exist. So we need to start developing, we need to start implementing, we have different frameworks the purpose of the framework is to help us to be able to protect those things, make sure we take the risks into account. So we need to start leveraging those frameworks. We need to start teaching our students how to use the framework. What's the purpose of the framework? Because yes, we have the framework, but we are not including it in any other curriculum. So we need to start incorporating those. Then also, when we get to the government expertise, we need to continue building those substantial AI and cybersecurity expertise within the government agency. We need to start collaborating with them. We need to start forming those alliances. I know currently the current state with CISA and all those, everything is in limbo, but still there's a lot of resources that we can use in order to make more effective, innovative policies and secure, our federal systems. So that's the key part of our global economy. So we need to make sure that we are able to manage the risk and enhance the international trade.
Thanks, Mario. It appears that your comments have generated a bit of activity on behalf of your fellow panelists. Mr. Melore from IBM, what are your thoughts?
So I'm one of my hobbies, I'm a committeeman for the FBI InfraGard.
Mm.
Now, some of you students may not be aware of this. You may not be eligible immediately now because I believe part of the application for the FBI InfraGard may require that you have some experience working in security and critical infrastructure. So you might have to table it, but you can go to infraguard.org. So the FBI InfraGuard is a partnership with the private citizen community towards critical infrastructure. Now, you are required to be a United States citizen to become a member. The FBI does conduct a background check on you. There's no cost for this, but basically, you will be more privy to critical infrastructure risks and some of the things that are going on either domestically and abroad as they're happening for you as a citizen to be involved in critical infrastructure protection. So you might want to take a look at infraguard.org. Again, there may be some requirements for some of you that you have to have at least some experience in the security infrastructure before they will accept you, but something to put on your radar. Thank you, Mario, for bringing that critical infrastructure stuff up.
And Carlos, your thoughts?
I have thoughts about Mario, but I want to kind of address the question in the QA. And the question was asked for students little industry experience, what practical steps or certifications would you recommend to break into cybersecurity roles? Well, here at Loyola Marymount, every student has access to LinkedIn Learning. We bought full licenses for everybody. I suggest you start there. If you go into LinkedIn's AI skill pathway, you can put, I want to learn more about AI security. As far as entry certifications, Network Plus, Security Plus, those are never bad place to start. So I would definitely tell you as a lion here, a student, you really want to take advantage of what we provide for you. And it's all, this is normally something you would pay for. It's free, it's available for you. You can go on there and you can say, hey, I want to get certified in this. And then there's plenty of courses and there's pathways there. And the second thing was, yeah, this is going to be tough, because if you don't have that experience, you're going to have to really work on trying to get those skills. And what's going on with CISA right now, where they're kind of being depleted, is really, and not only political, but it's bad because we really need to have these kind of resources, especially for education and other places that don't have the resources. And if you really, really want to get started in this, start at home. Start securing your network at home. Start looking at your router at home, your computer. Are you doing even that? Because if you start understanding your home, once you get into enterprise, it's just a bigger home system. So those are some of the things that I want to just point out.
Love it. Thank you, Carlos. And Michael, would you like to
Yes.
also pitch in with a question?
Yeah, I'd like to chime in with something that Carlos mentioned, and I'm sorry that I didn't bring it up sooner. IBM committed $250 million into new collar initiatives. So if you're not taking advantage of all of the free stuff, the free training that IBM is offering open to the public, shame on you. So there's skillsbuild.org, the same training portal that us IBMers use internally for our internal certifications. We've just opened up to the public. So you can take that. You can even get various credentials and certifications through that program, digital credentials that you can put on your resumes. There's also the IBM Learning Academy that has probably about a few hundred video tutorials and hands-on labs, self-paced, that you can take advantage of. There's the X-Force Exchange Threat Intelligence Forum that you could even collaborate with others on that forum. Look, you could identify indicators of compromise, all kinds of information. All of these programs I indicated are no cost. Thank you.
No, of course. And Mario, I know I know why you raised your hand, because you're eager to talk about all of the things that Los Angeles Community College District and LAVC are doing for relating to a cybersecurity regional hub. I presume you have something to say about all that?
Yes, actually, I just want to highlight it. Most of the community colleges now, they have a special interest on upskilling the adults, and all this, currently, even in my case at Los Angeles Valley College, and currently partnership with some of the major industry partners. And we are developing, like I mentioned before, typically a regular curriculum take anywhere from 2 to 3 years before it get approved. So the way to go around on this, I'm being a little bit innovative and developing non-credit courses, non-credit certificates with industry certifications. And again, not only at LA Valley College, there's multiple community colleges that offering those free courses. And to top it up, if you are part of the program, you can get vouchers to the certification. Again, the whole idea here is if you have the intent to be a cybersecurity specialist, you need to have the will to do it. So that's the key part here. You need to put the effort in order to become a cybersecurity specialist. And there's a lot of resources.
Sounds great. So, Carlos, another comment, and then we're going to open it up for questions.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that, like Mario mentioned, you got to really, really have that drive to push yourself because you really want to get to this field. But it starts with asking questions. You're on this webinar now. You really, if you have questions, you should ask them because you're not going to get a chance possibly to have this many people that want to help you. I tell my own staff, we have someone that's working with us, and I say, look, this person is an expert in her field. You should ask questions. You may not get these opportunities. So please ask questions if you have them. This is the right time to do so.
This is a perfect time to answer questions. And when I look at the Q&A icon, it doesn't appear that we have any questions. We would like to throw this open to questions. Hey, we know exactly how tight this job market is, how competitive it is for those. And for those that have very little in the way of preparation in AI and cyber, it is going to be a tough slog with that minimum wage job moving into the digital future. Michael?
I wanted to mention also, since you did mention quantum computing early on, IBM does allow no-cost access to, I believe, 100 qubits at IBM.com. So you can actually play with quantum computing now at no cost. So, like I said, there's a lot of programs, and if you're not taking advantage of it, you might want to think about it.
Carlos, you had just mentioned working on projects around the house or on your own device, in your own networks. There is a question in the Q&A. What are some projects you can do at home to build some of the skills that companies are looking for?
And I might ask Mario to chime in on this one. He's more of a network guy, but at home, your network, you can do a lot of things in your network settings. You can see, log tracing. You can see what kind of activities on, who's on your network, devices on your network. Again, you start doing this just at your home setting. When you get into enterprise, it's just one big enterprise. It's just the same. You get almost the same kind of insight. I would tell you to start really looking and seeing what you can do to really strengthen your home network, right? And also, here's an idea. LMU students, ITS is hiring. You can come work for us and gain insight into different IT roles. You can work. We have an information security student. We have student workers all through IT. So that's another way to really get some experience. Recently, I just came over from a different university, and we had our student working doing incident response documentation. He presented with Michael as a presenter on AI. So we really make sure that our students are getting as much possible to get them ready for the workforce. So those are some tips. But I'll let Mario chime in because I'm sure he has some other items.
A simple way to go, build your own mini lab, especially, nowadays we have, VMware, we have virtualization. Develop your own lab. You don't have to, yes, I know sometimes you say, oh, am I going to mess up my network? No, remember, the more you mess up, the more you're going to learn. If everything is working, you don't learn anything. Once you get something wrong, that's when you're going to learn because you're going to learn to fix it. So don't be afraid. Go on and, build your own lab. Like I say, now VMware is available. Now virtualization is available. Even go on eBay. You can go and buy equipment for less than $40. You can buy a router, a switch, a little firewall. Palo Alto Networks provide, VMware firewalls that you can use as a lab unit. Again, they will have to be there in order to learn. Especially nowadays, we have multiple devices at home. They are connected to the network. And I hope no one has the default password on most of those devices. I hope someone already made those changes.
Mario, I loved throttling internet traffic when you were teaching us how to do network engineering and all of that. Michael, you have a
Yeah, so still to just add to some of those home network and to get creative with that. So many of you probably have some type of a maybe a Ring camera or whatever other competitors there are in that surveillance. You can actually stand up multiple routers in your house. You might want to put some of those devices, like for your video environment, on one of your networks, and then maybe put your laptop and your cell phones when you're at home on the wireless network on one of the other networks. And then you could even open up pinholes on some of those routers, and you can really get a flavor for even how different networks work within your own environment. Now, also, think about, Dr. Clement was mentioning some of the folks that are highly vulnerable to some of the bad actors. I would immediately think to the seniors, the senior communities. You certainly know much more than most of the seniors in these senior centers and in these adult communities. Think about volunteering or and even your public library and hosting something. It could be you could start out with something that's really in your sweet spot, maybe just how to lock down and secure your cell phone, things that you do on your cell phone that maybe you tell your friends and you tell your parents about. Well, maybe you could extend that to maybe some of these adults in the adult communities and talk to them about that. Maybe you could talk to them about the phishing attempts that people came at you where you knew better that that was a scam. They may not. So maybe you could spend some time with the seniors at some of these centers and talk about how someone tried to trick you, and think about that. You could put all of that on your resume as well, that you were volunteering and you were assisting in these venues.
I love it, Carlos.
Yeah, I was going to do a quick plug. In the end of the month, we have a webinar about how to increase your security posture at home. We just talked about this, that this is a great way for you to do it. We're gonna put the link in there. You can register. That's an LMU webinar, and we'll give you some things that Mario and Michael also mentioned. But we're gonna go over it for a whole webinar, how to increase your home security posture. As far as one of the questions that I can answer real quick. What technical skills, programming languages, tools, frameworks are most in demand currently? So I'll go for that one. Let me give you some real good advice. Don't ever go for that, because if you don't like, you're not a programmer, and I tell you that that's the hottest field, and you're gonna struggle and you're gonna hate it and you're gonna be out of there in 6 months. So you kind of, and this is my own opinion, I'll let the panelists talk about that. But for me, you got to find something you like in information security or cybersecurity and then go for those, because if you're good at what you do, you're going to make pretty good money. But if you go to say, yeah, programming, that's really in demand, I can make a lot of money, but you're not a programmer, you hate it, it's just not going to happen. Or if it does happen, you're not going to be there long. But I'll let the other panelists add to that if they want, or say something different if they disagree.
Michael, what's on your mind related to that?
Well, there's a lot of different directions that you can go in security. One of my fellow panelists, I think might have been Dr. Clement, talked about maybe some of the soft skills. So even soft skills, your ability to communicate with others, you need that skill set in any business role that you're in. You're going to have to communicate to either your manager or your manager's manager on occasion. So get comfortable. Anyone that I mentor, I always tell them, I don't you don't have answering machines anymore in this day and age, but you might have a voicemail recording that maybe you put on your cell phone that, hey, sorry I missed you, leave a message and I'll call you back. Maybe you do that, maybe you don't, maybe you want to do that. But if you do that, were you able to do that on the first cut? I would probably bet that you didn't, that you had to do it a couple of times where you played it back and you said, oh boy, I said, I said, what, whatever it was. So start with your maybe out of the office message on your cell phone and record yourself. Think about even maybe recording an introduction for yourself. How comfortable are you maybe to even introduce yourself? You know yourself better than anyone else. Well, why don't you try it sometime just in a room by yourself and go through, hey, my name's Mike Melore. I'm an evangelist for cybersecurity. Talk about an introduction. Go over it over and over again until you can ace that introduction of yourself. Again, you know yourself better than anyone. But what a confidence builder that is for you to be able to introduce yourself clear cut. Think about that.
Mario, as a highly technical individual in the trenches yourself, what are your thoughts to the question of what technical skills are most in demand currently?
Remember, don't get hung with what is in demand right now. Carlos mentioned, you need to find your passion. You need to find what is inspiring you, what is firing you. That's what you need to find out. Because remember, cybersecurity is a huge field. And again, from the get-go, you don't need to learn everything. You just need to find your niche, find something that's of interest to you, and then work your way up. Take one course, take one domain of the cybersecurity, and then start getting your knowledge, and start getting your skills, start putting everything into practice. Don't see because, like I say, cybersecurity is a huge field. There's different domains that you need to master, but you don't need to master all at once. You need to start piece by piece. And again, all had to be on what is firing you up. What is your inspiration?
Fantastic. Carlos, what's your specific advice to LMU students that are looking to get into some of these companies? I see a question from Jared Evans. Thanks, Jared. You mentioned getting into a company at a lower level. Who are some of the big players in the LA market? Who are we sending people to?
So, hopefully they put this in the chat for everybody to see, but CyberSeek is a great place to start. You can drill down and say, I want to find a job in California and I want to find a job that's information security, and it will tell you where the jobs are at, the heat map, and it gives you good insight of what skills you'll need, what certification you'll need, what kind of experience you need. As far as the market here, it's honestly wherever you can get a foot in. I wouldn't be that picky. I wouldn't say, oh, I want to go work for Apple or Google. I would say, where can I get hired and start off? And again, sometimes entry-level cybersecurity is the help desk, but that's just realistically the job market right now. But if you go in there and you say, hey, I'm at the help desk, but I really have an interest in cybersecurity, can I work maybe on a project like that? And then as you get your foot in the door, you can start having some chances to get experience. And that would be my way to do it. I didn't start in cybersecurity. I started as an information technology consultant, and then I moved up and I was a manager of IT, and then I moved into information security. So no one just jumps in right away. Some people are lucky, but like I said, sometimes entry-level cybersecurity is the help desk.
Yeah, Carlos, I'm often asked these kinds of questions, and there's a lot of folks in the broader society on our campuses and nationwide that think that cybersecurity and AI is just a couple of workshops that you take over a weekend. And on Monday morning, you're the CISO of Boeing or some large federal agency, and there's a chain that goes up. Michael, what's your advice to LMU students that are looking to get into cyber and AI?
Sure. So I mentioned something earlier about some of the organization lowering their hiring requirements for hire candidates. So there's a lot of pressure on organizations to do that. And maybe for some of the positions, there's not a requirement for a 4-year degree for some of the cybersecurity roles that are out there. Now, I will tell you though that if you go the route without the education, you're likely to plateau at some point. If you think about maybe even someone that might be a chief information security officer, there may be pressure on organizations where they might not make promote someone to a chief officer position in their organization just because of the liability on that, because they may be exploited or breached at some point, and the fact that they made a decision to maybe put someone that maybe didn't have a 4-year degree in one of their officer positions, then maybe they would be looked at as maybe negligent for not having the highest level skilled person in that position. So you're likely to plateau without the education at a certain point in your career. So keep that in mind, even if you maybe pause your education and then take on a job or something, you might want to continue on so you can get those senior roles down the road.
Fantastic. Mario, at the LACCD, community colleges often are known to have the pulse of workforce development. So what is your advice to LMU students that want to get into cyber and AI? And where would you say who are the big players in terms of reaching out to?
You know, here in the LA area, some of the big players are the small businesses. Start of the small businesses. We don't need to go to work at Google's or Amazon's or the Apples. No, look at the local. We don't even need to go further. Look at our City LA. Currently, I'm working with City LA. I'm working with some of the municipalities around the LA Valley, the college district, and we're building partnerships. We are developing apprenticeship programs. Currently at LA Valley College, we got 2 registered apprentices on cybersecurity analysts and networking specialists. And again, we are developing those partnerships with the small businesses and also some of the big players. We're talking about some of the Major League Baseball teams in LA, NBA in LA. And again, some of the new courses and curriculum developing at the LA Valley College is in collaboration with this companies around the LA area. Again, the whole goal of LA Valley College is eventually become the cyber hub on cybersecurity education on the area. And one of the advice is, remember, we have a superpower brain. And what do we need to do in cybersecurity? We need to start thinking outside the box. We need to be creative. That's the key part in this, especially in cyber. Yes, the field is challenging, but very rewarding. Again, we need to take small wins as a big deal. And how do we do that? We take one course at a time and master those skills. That's the key part. Learn every one of those domains. We need to take it in pieces. Take it as a piecemeal. Don't try to, I'm going to be the cybersecurity expert or the valley. No, take it one win at a time. That's one of the advice. But again, keep in mind, you need to have the desire to do it.
It's a deal. I appreciate all of the advice to the students and maybe some faculty that are hanging out with us. I would happily address Paul Grabeau's question. How do you resolve the many claims for thousands of open cybersecurity positions with the current demand supply curve for people? And let's be clear that in 2025, those that have digital skills in artificial intelligence and securing AI and the digital space out there, there are always going to be jobs available. I think that the point of your message is this idea that the labor market in cyber and AI are currently very unsettled. Like, for example, CISA just got done getting rid of a lot of people. I don't know how to politely put that. I mean, that there's a large injection of well experienced cyber professionals that are coming out of the federal government, and they are beginning to settle in with state and local government. So I do believe, to your question, that this is an issue in the resolution process. We know that it's a bifurcated job market. That is for those that have old and outdated skills, just like in technology anywhere. Their pink slips are coming, and those that have the new cutting edge skills that the employers just can't find and they just can't develop on their own, there's always going to be some jobs available in this area. And we have spoken about startups and entrepreneurial and do the stuff yourself. And let's be perfectly honest, if you are an innovator or an entrepreneur, you just have to love the transformative market that has been created by artificial intelligence, machine learning, LLMs, and all of that kind of stuff. But I could go on about that all day. We have one remaining question. And Paul, I certainly hope that answered your question to your satisfaction. It's very much up in the air. But I would like quickly, everybody, what's the best way to list home or personal cyber projects on a resume so employers see them as real experience? I just want to quickly add micro badges, micro credentials, and all of those kinds of things. Mario, do you have anything to add on how they can list these things on a resume or a vitae?
One way to list it is, put it on the lower end of your resume, saying currently working on, developing or creating a home lab to secure my environment, VLANing, or, list it at the bottom of your resume, and, highlight the skills that you learn, the proficiency that you develop, and, well, most importantly, highlight how was your network before you actually, implement it. How vulnerable was before, and now how secure it is now.
So I like
that would be one way.
I like that a little to what Mario was saying. So for myself, I did the Cisco Network Academy, which was free. I'm not a Linux person, and I did the Linux course. And there they have a VM where you can go in and do Linux commands. And if I was in your shoes asking that question, like Mario said, I would put it towards the bottom, but I would say I took a Linux Cisco Network Academy class. As part of that, I built out my Linux file share at home, where now it's part of that learning. I'm able to do this and include that project as far as your class that you took, and that's a free class. Again, LA Valley College, LMU, they offer these classes where you can also put, hey, I also did this project that necessarily wasn't part of the class, but it was part of that curriculum that helped me get that experience.
Michael?
Also, I would also include the technology that you worked on, even if it was at your house or outside or at that senior center. And think about that home network, maybe even just being a building block for yourself. Once you get the skills and what you've done in your home environment, take a walk over to the closest retirement community and talk to those folks and tell them that you might want to volunteer and assist them in securing their environment the same way you secured your own environment. Chances are they're not as secure as your home environment was after you were done with that. And you don't have to be paid in order to be a consultant. So keep that in mind as well. So if you're assisting in a senior center or something in a consultative capacity, again, you don't have to necessarily be paid to represent yourself on your resume that you were working and assisting that senior center in that consultative capacity.
Fantastic, everybody. I really appreciate all three of your inputs and your perspectives. Yongson, back to you.
Thank you so much, Keith, for moderating such a stimulating and enlightening panel discussion. I'm not a tech person, so it was sometimes difficult to understand what you guys were talking about, but I still learned a lot from this fascinating conversation. Before we wrap up this webinar, I'd like to ask a one question to all the panelists. I teach international business and management. One of our goals is to learn about best practices in other countries. Can any of you tell us how the US competitors such as China and Russia and develop cybersecurity workforce? And what are the specific areas in cybersecurity they are ahead of us and we have to learn from them?
Regrettably, authoritarian regimes do not have ed code that they have to follow. And as a result, they are able to provide very detailed aptitude tests to very, very young children and pull them out of the traditional public education system. And they teach them 40 hours a week, how to be a malicious actor, how to hack, how to overcome countermeasures, all red team attack positions. I don't know if others have other comments about that question though. Excellent question though. I think that really details how some countries are able to really develop a culture of hacking through a lot of resources starting very young, and I do mean 5 and 6 years of age.
And I'll add to that. I think that the US has a lot of regulations that a lot of the countries don't have to abide by. So you have products like DeepSeek and other things that, may not be as guarded or guardrails there. So they can develop much quicker. And again, that's a competitive edge they have, right? Because like Dr. Clement said, they have different set of rules that they don't have to abide by that the US does. But again, that still doesn't mean that we're not going to be competitive. It's just that we have to adapt, and that's going to be the juggling act.
I'll weigh in. So the bad actors, it doesn't necessarily have to be high tech. They could just be making telephone calls to any victim and just say, "Hey, I'm calling from Microsoft, and your computer has a virus on there, and we can see it from where we are sitting, and I'm trying to help you." And the bad actor could be telling someone, and just simply just allow them a couple of steps to follow, and then they could be remotely accessing their computer. And again, they don't have to even be developing the malware. As soon as they just drive someone to click on a site, they can put that payload right on that other computer. We've come to a certain point where we don't even have, the bad actors don't even have to be sophisticated because there's tools that they can leverage. So it's very simple. So they don't even have to be sophisticated. They just have to get the victim and have that relationship with the victim, even socially engineering them.
Mario, the last word?
Yeah, instead of focusing on, the bad actors and how well, they have no restrictions. There's no laws applying to them. So instead of doing that, I just want to put a call to action for us here in the US. And instead, let's invest. Invest on what? Invest on the skill-based training, do our internal upskilling here, to start forming some partnerships between the government, education, and especially the industry partners. And most importantly, we need to start adapting. What do you mean by adapting? We need to start redefining the different job roles with the augmentation of AI and the cyber professional. And the main goal should be to transform our cyber posture from reactive into a predictive way. So that will be, instead of me focusing on what they're doing, what the back actors are doing, I'd rather focus on how can we fix what we have here and how can we improve it.
It's a deal. Youngson, this was such an engaging conversation that we actually ran 2 minutes over. I hope that we're not in trouble with LMU. So we're done now.
Yeah. Thank you, our great panelists, Michael, Mario, Carlos, and of course Keith, for sharing your experiences and insights with us about this timely and very important topic today. Finally, I also would like to thank all of you who joined the webinar today. I hope you have enjoyed the program. We'll be back with another program in November with a different topic titled The Impact of AI on Multilingual Virtual Team Communication. We have a great speaker from Germany join us and share her research results in celebration of International Education Week in November. Please look for our emails to get more detailed information about these events. As you leave this webinar, you'll be asked to fill out a short survey. I would really appreciate it if you could give us a feedback to today's program. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.